This is a little painter's diary entry, if you like, by me, Lachlan Goudie, from the Dorset countryside where I've been painting now for about 10 or 11 weeks. I can't quite remember how long it is since all this lockdown began, but that's when I came out here. I'm in a beautiful part of the English countryside, an area of rolling hills and woodland, about 15 minutes drive from the sea. And it really is the most magnificent, inspiring and soothing landscape to come out and paint in. You can perhaps hear that I'm surrounded by birdsong. It's evening time, it's June, and in the distance there's also, I think, a tractor or combine harvester turning the ground, preparing for whatever rain they are all praying will soon fall, because it has been a springtime of sunshine and heat. And this has allowed me to bring my easel out into the garden of the beautiful place where I have the great fortune of being able to come and stay. And I have been painting flowers for 10, 11 weeks. In fact, I have seen and watched spring blossom all around me. When we arrived here, it was mid-March and the trees had no leaves, the flower beds were green, and there was no hint of what was just about to happen. But in the ensuing weeks, the leaves suddenly appeared, turning from lemon, fresh green into a richer, darker viridian as they are now in early June. The buds began to appear on the roses and the peonies, and then they blossomed and are even now beginning to turn as the springtime heat and the lack of rain has its consequences. But this has meant a bumper time for me at the easel, and I didn't actually intend to be here at this point in time painting nature, painting the flora and fauna, but during this time of great stress and concern for all of us, I have been extraordinarily lucky and blessed to have such an open-air studio to be able to work in, to retreat to focus my attention away from all the troublesome news and engage with the simple act of painting flower petals. And I suspect that given the gravity of the times we live in, that sounds like an awfully self-indulgent way to spend your time. But I do believe that in some small way the painter's role is to find beauty and to find wonder in small things, and hopefully open everyone's eyes to the extraordinary world that surrounds us. So when I paint a flower, I'm not consciously thinking that, but in the aftermath I like to imagine that maybe that's part of the motivation for why I am so engaged with, so intrigued by the act of painting roses, flowers, daffodils, irises, lavender, whatever it might be. It's inspiring to me. And artists have painted, obviously, still lifes ad infinitum over the centuries, from Manet to Peplo to whoever you could possibly imagine will at some point, I'm sure, have found himself painting a still life of flowers, even if it is just for practice, even if it is just to get your eye in. Painting a flower remains for me one of the greatest challenges any artist can face, because it demands you to be technically up to the challenge, but it also requires that you pay great attention to the fact that what you are painting is a transitory moment of beauty. It's a fragile thing, a flower. It's a soft, beautiful, light piece of wonder, and your role, I think, as a painter is to try and communicate that, not just to create a photographic reproduction of what a flower looks like, but to sort of imply some of the extraordinary capabilities that a petal has to reflect, absorb light, create colour in unexpected ways, and show nature at its most bewitching and beguiling. So the canvases are being covered. The temporary studio I have here is filling up. Spring has moved into early summer, and the blooms are beginning to subside a bit. They're getting a bit weary and a bit tired, and I think that in the coming weeks I'm going to be turning my attention away from the sort of microscopic examination of the flower beds and into the macro examination of the horizon lines, the landscape, the woodlands that surround me. I'm just listening in to nature's evening orchestra, and I find this about 6:30, 7 o'clock to be the most rewarding part of the day for me. Even if I'm still struggling with a painting, these sounds, this gentle atmosphere of nature and the English countryside, or the countryside wherever you might find yourself in Britain, really has a tranquilizing power, and it does create that opportunity every day to pause, and I step back from the easel and I think, bloody hell, aren't I lucky, and aren't we all, to be able to enjoy the turning of the seasons and take pleasure from nature's bounty. So there you go. There's my pearl of wisdom for today. Painter's diary now over. I'm going to go and clean my brushes.